Have you ever asked yourself what your brain will look and feel like 10 years from now based on the choices you're making today? That's not a question most people consider, but it's one that determines everything: your health, your energy, your relationships, even the very memories that shape who you are. Every decision you make, what you eat, how you sleep, whether you move, what you focus on, becomes part of the architecture of your brain. You are literally building your future self one small choice at a time. People think big transformation requires big leaps. They wait for some dramatic moment, some life changing event to finally take control of their health or their mind. But the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. Your brain is shaped not by the rare, massive choices, but by the small daily ones. The foods you put on your plate, the thoughts you entertain, the moments you choose to rest or to push forward. These are the quiet builders of your future brain. And just like drops of water carve stone, these choices shape the pathways of your mind. Science has shown that the brain is not fixed. It changes, it adapts, it rewires, it heals. But here's the catch: it can rewire for health or for harm. Feed it processed food, endless stress, and negative thoughts, and it will rewire toward weakness, anxiety, and decline. Feed it nutrients, movement, a positive focus, and quality rest, and it will rewire toward resilience, clarity, and strength. The power is always in your hands, hidden in the choices that seem too small to matter until they do. Think about stress. Everyone faces it, but your response to it determines its impact. Stress unmanaged, combined with poor sleep and unhealthy coping habits, shrinks the brain and weakens memory. But stress managed through deep breathing, exercise, and perspective becomes a teacher. It strengthens resilience, sharpens focus, and grows new connections. The same pressure that can break you can also build you. It all depends on your choices. When you choose to protect your brain, you are not just guarding against disease, you are safeguarding your future self. You are protecting your ability to remember your children's faces, to enjoy conversations with friends, to think clearly when challenges come. Your brain is the control center of your entire life, and the habits you practice today are writing the code for tomorrow. The encouraging truth is that transformation doesn't require a complete overhaul. It doesn't demand perfection. It requires small, consistent steps: choosing water instead of soda, reading instead of scrolling, moving your body instead of staying still, sleeping instead of sacrificing rest. These little steps seem minor in the moment, but together they create a future of clarity, energy, and joy. Your brain's hidden power is waiting, and it's unlocked not by chance, but by choice. Every day, you are shaping the person you will become. The question is, what kind of brain are you building? What kind of future self are you creating? The answer is in the small daily choices you make right now. Every thought and choice you make rewires your brain for better or worse. The human brain is not a rigid structure. It is plastic, constantly changing in response to what you do, what you think, and how you live. This is both empowering and sobering. It means you are never stuck. You can always create new pathways of growth, resilience, and clarity. But it also means that negative choices and destructive thoughts can carve unhealthy patterns that weaken your brain over time. Like a garden, the brain grows what you plant. If you sow seeds of health, gratitude, and learning, you harvest strength. If you sow seeds of neglect, worry, and harmful habits, you harvest decline. Every thought you repeat strengthens the neural pathway that carries it. Think of it like walking a trail in the woods. The more often you walk the same path, the clearer and easier it becomes to follow. When you dwell on positive, empowering thoughts, Your brain wires those pathways more deeply, making it easier to think positively in the future. But when you dwell on negativity, fear, or resentment, those are the trails that get strengthened. Over time, the brain learns to default to whatever has been repeated most often. This is why habits of thought are so powerful. They literally shape the structure of your brain. Choices work in the same way. Each choice you make about food, movement, rest, or focus sends a signal to your brain. Choosing to exercise increases blood flow and grows new brain cells. Choosing to sleep enough strengthens memory and emotional regulation. Choosing whole, nutrient rich foods fuels the brain with the building blocks it needs to thrive. But the opposite is also true. Choosing processed junk food contributes to inflammation that damages brain cells. Choosing to stay sedentary starves the brain of oxygen and weakens connections. Choosing to sacrifice sleep robs the brain of its ability to clean, repair, and recharge. These choices may feel small in the moment, but over time, they sculpt the health and resilience of the brain. What makes this truth so powerful is that it gives back control. Many people believe their brain is fixed, that their moods, their habits, or their thinking are set in stone. But neuroscience shows that the brain is always changing, always adapting. You are literally training it every day with your choices and your thoughts. If you want a brain that is sharper, calmer, more focused, and healthier, it begins with the daily practice of shaping it through intentional living. The brain does not stand still. It is either getting better or getting worse, depending on the direction you guide it. Every thought and every choice matters because each one rewires the brain in some way. The question is, are you wiring it for health or for harm? The answer lies in the seeds you plant today because they will grow into the brain you live with tomorrow. Small, consistent habits build the foundation for mental strength and resilience. Most people imagine resilience as something you are either born with or suddenly discover in times of crisis. They think mental toughness is a trait reserved for soldiers, athletes, or extraordinary individuals. But the truth is that resilience is not built in grand moments. It is crafted quietly in the small decisions and repeated actions of daily life. Just like a strong body comes from consistent training, a strong mind comes from consistent habits that reinforce stability, clarity, and endurance. The brain thrives on consistency. It is like a muscle that grows stronger when exercised daily, not when it is pushed to extremes once in a while. Something as simple as practicing gratitude each morning trains the brain to focus on positives, rewiring it to default to hope rather than despair. Regular exercise, even in small amounts, floods the brain with oxygen, improves circulation, and grows new brain cells, all of which enhance mental strength. These actions may seem insignificant on their own, but repeated over weeks and months, they transform the mind into one that can face challenges with steadiness and courage. Habits are powerful because they free you from relying solely on willpower. When a healthy action becomes automatic, it no longer requires deep thought or effort. Brushing your teeth is not a struggle because it has been ingrained as a daily pattern. The same principle applies to mental health. Journaling, walking, meditating, or reading for just a few minutes each day may not seem like much, but when they become habits, they form a foundation of strength that supports you during times of stress. You do not have to scramble to build resilience when life becomes hard. You already have it in place because of the habits you've nurtured. It is often the smallest choices that carry the greatest impact. Choosing to turn off screens before bed improves sleep, which restores memory and emotional balance. Choosing water over soda nourishes the body and clears the mind. Choosing to pause and breathe deeply in a stressful moment calms the nervous system and strengthens self control. None of these choices feel dramatic, but repeated daily, they carve pathways of resilience in the brain. They create a mind that can adapt, recover, and stand firm even when life shakes. Resilience is not about avoiding struggle. It is about becoming strong enough to move through it without breaking. Small habits build this strength gradually. They give you a reservoir of calm, clarity, and energy to draw upon when difficulties come. The person who consistently invests in their mental health through small habits does not crumble when faced with obstacles. They rise because their brain and spirit have been trained for it. Every great change begins with something small, a few minutes of reflection, a short walk, a single choice to focus on what is good rather than what is broken. These are the bricks that build resilience. Over time, they create a foundation so solid that no storm can easily shake it. Small, consistent habits are not just routines. They are the daily builders of mental strength, and they determine the resilience you will carry into the future. Nutrition, movement, and sleep are not just lifestyle choices, they are brain shaping tools. Too often people think of food, exercise, and rest as optional add ons, things to pay attention to only when convenient. But science makes it clearer. These are not side details of health, they are the core builders of your brain structure and function. Every meal you eat, every step you take, and every night of sleep you protect is either shaping your brain toward resilience, clarity, and longevity, or weakening it toward decline, confusion, and disease. The brain you live with tomorrow is built by the habits you practice today. Nutrition is one of the most direct ways to shape the brain. The brain may only make up about 2% of body weight, but it consumes about 20% of your body's energy. That means the fuel you provide matters deeply. Highly processed foods loaded with sugar and unhealthy oils inflame the brain, shrink its capacity, and create instability in mood and focus. On the other hand, whole foods rich in antioxidants, omega-3 fats, and vitamins protect brain cells, encourage growth, and improve communication between neurons. Foods like leafy greens, salmon, nuts, and berries act like medicine for the brain, supporting memory and an emotional stability. What you put on your plate is not just feeding your body, it is sculpting your mind. Movement is another powerful brain shaping tool. Exercise does far more than build muscle or burn calories. It stimulates neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells. Each time you move, you increase blood flow, which delivers oxygen and nutrients to the brain. This strengthens the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for learning and memory. Regular physical activity also reduces stress hormones and triggers the release of endorphins and neurotransmitters that stabilize mood and sharpen focus. Even small amounts of consistent movement, like walking daily or stretching, create long term changes in the brain's capacity to handle challenges. Exercise is not just about how you look, it is about how well your brain can think, adapt, and thrive. Sleep may be the most underestimated of all. In a world that glorifies productivity and constant busyness, rest is often sacrificed, but sleep is when the brain does its most important repair work. During deep sleep, toxins are flushed out, memories are consolidated, and neural pathways are strengthened. Without sufficient rest, the brain cannot focus, process emotions, or make wise decisions. Chronic sleep deprivation shrinks brain volume, accelerates aging, and leaves you vulnerable to anxiety, depression, and cognitive decline. Protecting sleep is not laziness. It is one of the most powerful investments you can make in your brain's future. Together, nutrition, movement, and sleep form a triad that determines the health of your brain. They are not optional lifestyle choices. They are essential tools for shaping who you are and who you will become. Each meal, each step, Each night of rest is a message to your brain telling it to grow stronger or weaker. If you want a future of clarity, resilience, and vitality, the place to begin is here with the tools you already hold in your daily life. Stress can either damage or strengthen the brain depending on how you respond to it. Many people see stress only as a destructive force, something to avoid at all costs. And it's true, chronic, unmanaged stress can shrink areas of the brain, weaken memory, disturb sleep, and increase the risk of anxiety and depression. But stress itself is not the real enemy. Stress is the body's signal, its way of preparing you to respond, adapt, and overcome challenges. It is your response to stress that determines whether it becomes harmful or helpful. In the right frame, stress can actually sharpen the brain, increase resilience, and strengthen your ability to face future challenges. When stress is prolonged and unmanaged, it floods the body with cortisol, a hormone that in small bursts helps you focus, but in constant streams erodes brain tissue. The hippocampus, which manages learning and memory, is especially vulnerable. Too much stress without relief can make it harder to think clearly, remember details, or regulate emotions. This is where stress turns toxic, when it is allowed to dominate without being balanced by recovery. People who live in this cycle often feel burned out, anxious, or mentally exhausted, as though their brain is working against them instead of with them. Yet stress has another side. Short-term, well-managed stress can actually strengthen the brain. Think about lifting weights. The muscle fibers are placed under pressure. They tear slightly, and then with rest and recovery, they rebuild stronger. The brain works in a similar way. When faced with challenges, a difficult problem, a new skill, or even a sudden obstacle, stress activates the brain systems. Blood flow increases, focus sharpens, and neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form new connections, is enhanced. When the challenge is met and balanced with proper recovery, the brain comes out stronger, more adaptable, and better equipped to handle future stress. The key difference lies in how you respond. If stress is met with unhealthy coping, junk food, isolation, lack of sleep, or negative thinking, it damages the brain. If stress is met with healthy coping, deep breathing, movement, problem solving, perspective, or connection, it strengthens the brain. Stress, in this sense, becomes like a teacher, training your mind to grow instead of collapse. The same storm that can drown you can also teach you how to swim if you respond with awareness and the right actions. It's important to remember that stress is not going away. Life will always bring challenges, changes, and pressures. You cannot control everything that happens, but you can control your response. You can choose to see stress as a threat that destroys you or as a signal that can shape you. By practicing resilience, by building habits of calm, focus, and recovery, you allow stress to serve you instead of sabotage you. In the end, stress is like fire. Left unchecked, it burns everything down, but controlled and guided, it gives warmth, light, and strength. The brain responds to it the same way. Your response decides whether it becomes damage or growth. The choice is always in your hands. Protecting your brain means protecting your future memories, decisions, and identity. The brain is not just another organ. It is the very essence of who you are. It holds your memories of childhood, your relationships, your passions, and your deepest dreams. It guides every decision you make, from the smallest daily choice to the biggest life-changing moment. It shapes your personality, your creativity, and the way you connect with the world. When the brain is healthy, you feel like yourself, sharp, focused, and alive. But when the brain begins to decline, it is not just function that is lost. It is pieces of your identity slipping away. Protecting the brain is therefore not only about preventing disease, it is about preserving the core of who you are and who you want to be in the future. Memory is one of the most precious treasures of the brain, the laughter of loved ones, the lessons you've learned, the moments that shaped you. These are what make life meaningful. Yet memory is also fragile, easily damaged by poor habits, toxins, stress, and neglect. Every choice you make either safeguards or erodes this ability. Choosing nutrient rich foods, exercise, and mental stimulation strengthens neural connections and preserves memory. Choosing processed food, chronic stress, and inactivity slowly chips away at it. The brain does not lose memory overnight. It fades gradually when protection is ignored. That is why every step you take to guard your brain today is really an investment in holding on to the memories you'll cherish tomorrow. Your brain also governs decision making, the compass that directs your life, from career moves to financial planning to relationships. Your choices shape your destiny. A healthy brain gives clarity, balance, and confidence in judgment. An unhealthy brain clouds thinking, fuels impulsivity, and creates regret. Protecting the brain ensures that your future decisions are wise, thoughtful, and aligned with the life you want to live. Without protection, you risk losing control over choices that affect not just yourself, but everyone connected to you. And beyond memory and decision, making lies something even deeper, your identity. The brain is the seat of your personality, your sense of humor, your creativity, your emotional depth. When the brain is damaged or neglected, people often describe the experience not just as losing function, but as losing themselves. This is why conditions that affect the brain feel so devastating. They do not just alter health, they alter the very essence of who a person is. To protect the brain is to protect that essence, to ensure that the person you are today remains present and vibrant in the years to come. Protecting the brain does not require drastic measures. It requires consistent care. Nourishing foods, regular exercise, deep sleep, mental challenges, and emotional balance are not just lifestyle practices, they are acts of preservation. Each choice to care for your brain is a choice to preserve your memories, strengthen your decisions, and safeguard your identity. To protect your brain is to protect your future. And there is no greater investment you can make than in the very core of who you are. Transformation doesn't require massive changes. It begins with small daily choices. Many people wait for a breakthrough moment, believing they need to completely overhaul their lives to see progress. They imagine quitting every bad habit in one day, starting a strict diet overnight, or launching into an intense exercise routine after years of inactivity. The problem with this approach is that it feels overwhelming and rarely lasts. True transformation is not about sudden, massive action. It is about simple, repeated steps that, over time, create lasting change. The power lies in the small decisions you make every single day. The human brain is wired to resist drastic changes. When you try to shift everything at once, the stress and pressure often cause you to give up before results appear. But when you introduce small changes, the brain adapts and those changes begin to feel natural. Choosing to drink water instead of soda, to take the stairs instead of the elevator, to pause and breathe instead of reacting with anger. These may feel like tiny decisions, but they are actually rewiring your brain. Each choice lays down a new pathway, and with repetition, those pathways grow stronger until they become your default. Consider how habits form. A single action done once makes little difference, but repeated daily, it creates momentum. Reading for 10 minutes a day builds knowledge over years. Walking for 20 minutes daily strengthens the heart, clears the mind, and boosts energy far more than a single burst of exercise once a month. Writing down three things you are grateful for every evening trains the brain to notice positives and cultivates resilience. None of these habits take extraordinary effort, yet their cumulative effect transforms both brain and life. Transformation through small choices also teaches consistency, which is more important than intensity. It is better to eat one healthy meal every day than to follow a strict diet for a week and then abandon it. It is better to meditate for 5 minutes daily than to meditate for an hour once and never return to it. The brain grows through repetition, not through occasional bursts of effort. By mastering small, consistent actions, you build the foundation for bigger changes later without overwhelming yourself at the start. The beauty of this approach is that it gives you control right now. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions, a new year, or a dramatic wake up call.
Yeah.
You already have the power to change by choosing differently in this moment. Transformation is not about what you plan to do tomorrow. It is about what you do today in the small decisions that seem insignificant. Over time, these choices accumulate, and the person you become is simply the result of the habits you've built. Massive change is not the secret to transformation. Daily choices are. When you focus on the small steps, you take pressure off yourself and you create a life of growth that feels natural and sustainable. It is the ordinary choices repeated with intention that create extraordinary results.